bunch of connections going on. So this is Saturday, June 14th. We have all sorts of fun going on here. Awesome. Okay, so we are live with all of our pieces. My name is Sue Roscoff. We are here every Saturday between 1 and 3 o'clock Central to share out all sorts of fun stuff that's happening in our corner of the world. This is World of Ability, and I think, which, if you know us, that's pretty self-explanatory, but we do highlight as many people and things that are going on as we can here. And we do have a friend that is joining us. With no further ado, I want to go ahead and bring in Dr. Karen to join us. And let's see, I'm going to add you on in here with our spotlights. So, Karen, so glad to have you joining us. If you're going to go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what you do. I know you were sharing a little bit earlier when we were on Shakedown. I love all that. But yeah, to our wider audience here, come on in and the floor is yours. So glad you're here.
Oh, thanks, Sue. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you guys and visit with anybody else who's listening, or if there's a replay, watch the replay. Because I love sharing what I do. I love what I do. Um, so I'm a retired dental hygienist. I became a naturopath or a doctor of natural health about 20 something years ago. That was due to my own disability, by the way. And I couldn't practice as a hygienist anymore because my fingers cramped up and it was so uncomfortable that I literally had tears running from my eyes down below my mask. And luckily my clients couldn't see it. But I said, okay, I got to do something. So I had to leave the profession. And I went back to school to learn how to get well naturally. I had been learning a lot over time about, and we all are familiar with this, the side effects of drugs, okay, legal drugs. And it just didn't make sense to me to keep adding one drug on top of another. So I wanted to learn how to do it naturally. It had helped me with my son who was hyperactive and had an attention problem. I thought, well, it can help me too. So after I got my degree, I started using everything that I knew. And of course, 20 something years ago, we didn't have the internet like we have it now. We didn't have Google searches. Google is my best friend some days, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
And so I did all of this by hand, and getting the information was a much slower process. Um, Nowadays, we're very lucky. We get that information faster, but there are so many conflicting studies that now it's confusing for people. So what I do is I help set people straight based on their own individual needs, what their body needs nutritionally, what their body needs in order to function properly. So part of my background is I'm a certified yoga teacher. I also do a technique called craniosacral therapy. And that has taught me a lot about working with the body and allowing the body to work with the client as well as with myself. And I actually have transferred those skills to doing it remotely. So everything I do is remote. So I'm here in Curtin Sue's area, which is southeastern Wisconsin. I'm on the very western edge of Milwaukee. And so I would love to do craniosacral therapy for other people who are like in Chicago or in California, but they aren't going to travel to see me. I want to make things available to them. And so the way I do that is through nutrition, but also through mindset. So I'm certified as an energy practitioner. The word practitioner doesn't really fit what I do because we don't practice. I'm not practicing on you folks. I'm certified. I know how to do this, okay? And so I'm certified in emotional release techniques. And that frees up our energy. Now, when we're thinking things negatively, that thought goes to the brain. It goes to the nervous system, and the nervous system says, oh, that's what we're supposed to do? Okay, let's send that negativity throughout the body. And the body doesn't function properly. And so everything we know as a disease or a disorder, that's the process. It's very simple. Now I'm simplifying it. The body is not that simple. And this is what I like to share with people. Okay, so people on the whole can't do that for themselves. They can learn how if they want to go through the type of schooling I've gone through. I'm here for the shortcut. That's what I do. So the bottom line of this is the result. I want people to live an easier, simpler, more cost-effective, time-efficient, fun life. And the way they can do that is by feeling good. It's really that simple. And so I look at particularly stress. Now, a lot of people think about emotional stress, right? Isn't that the first thing that comes to your mind? There's also physical stress. So anytime a body part isn't working properly, it stresses the body. There's also biochemical stress, and that comes from the hormones. The hormones usually are misprogrammed, okay? And that actually comes a lot from what we've gone through in the last 5+ years. That one of the systems that was hit first by the virus was the endocrine system or the hormones. And I've been going through that myself. And then another area that I look at is toxicity. Our world has become so toxic. In 2006, there was a study done by a National Geographic expose, and this journalist set out to find the best places on the face of the earth that were not polluted, that we could live in, right? He said there is no place any longer, that outside and inside are all polluted, and the inside of our homes is even more polluted than the outside. And if you think about that, it's like, okay, what's coming into this house that's causing that pollution? And so I help people find those toxic areas. And it's just a fascinating world that I've learned about because I've needed it. And so unraveling that and taking it to the next level and doing prevention will help people stay better longer. It's not about how long we live, okay? It's about how we live while we're here. And I love, I hopefully I can quote this properly. Abraham Lincoln said, it's not the number of years that we live, it's the number of life in our years.
Mm.
Okay, and he said that. He was in the 1800s, okay, mid 1800s when he said that. So that's what I like to share with people. We've gotten away from that simplicity of life. And there are simple ways we can change. I know people don't like that word a lot, but I use it anyway. We can adjust. How's that? Is that a better word? We can adjust to living a simpler life in a complicated world.
Slowing down and thinking that all through, that's huge. I think everybody needs to do that because we don't often pay attention to all the stress around us, what's going on inside us, what's going on in our house, and what are we using for our cleaning products? There's all sorts of things that hit us that we don't even think about. And taking that step back and it's like, wait a second, really, no. Notice what's going on. Notice how your body's feeling. How often do we do that? That I think we need to focus on that, and what a difference that would make if we can take that time to do that for ourselves, for our
Yes,
families.
yes. We live in a society where we're used to quick fixes. It's
Yep.
not the quick fixes that do the changing, okay? That make the adjustments so that we're noticing things are better, okay? It's the small steps every day that we do. So I'm not talking about a massive makeover here of our homes and our bodies, okay? It's a small step. Choose one thing that we can do and do it for a week, for a month, whatever you're comfortable with. So it's a matter of adapting when I teach people to what they're comfortable with. So I have one client, she's been with me for probably about 13 years or so, and we've become very good friends. And she's gone through massive changes in the last year of her life that were life imposed on her, let's say. Okay. And there have been times when I have had to say, okay, let's take a step back. Let's take a look at this, and helped her break it down. And by the time we get done talking, which is probably a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, I can hear in her voice and in her breathing that she has really taken a step back and regrounded herself. And when I say grounding, there's two kinds of grounding, okay? There's emotional grounding. Everybody's probably familiar with that one. And then you may be familiar with earthing, or another term for it is grounding. And that's our connection with our environment. Okay? We are disconnected from our environment. This is all part of my training. And I find it fascinating. I tell everybody I'm a science nerd. It is so interesting to me how all of these things fit together that I like to, I liken it. And if anybody goes to my Facebook page, okay, they will see it there. My background is on my, which page is it on? I can't remember. Oh, it's on my group page. And Moving into Better Health is my group. And feel free to join. No charge and lots of information. Anyway, it's puzzle pieces. It's how those puzzle pieces fit together. And that's the important part, because what fits for one person may not fit for another.
Yeah, I'm just popping that in the chat. So moving into Better Health on Facebook, that people can find that. And
Yes.
to go back and look that up myself. Wow. So uh, when somebody comes to you, where tends to be a good place to start with someone? Because I'm picturing, as you're talking, I've got lots of different things that's hitting my mind. It's like, where's a good starting point?
Yeah, people can be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Okay. I am confused, and I take those two things into consideration first. So what I do is I go through, if we're doing one-on-one appointments, I go through a health information form. I find out what's going on with them. Okay. Because I have been gifted with good listening skills. And I am a visual person. Okay. So I can actually see the puzzle pieces that fit together. So, for instance, if somebody has a heart issue, I'm going to ask them how their lungs are, how their respiratory system is, because those two are connected. If you have inflammation in your lungs, it's going to stress your heart. Okay. And so I look for the commonalities first, and I break it down so that it's less confusing, okay, and less overwhelming for people. And then I ask them where they want to start. Do they want to start with nutrition? Do they want to start with mindset? This is all up to them, because if I tell them, well, let's start here, okay, for instance, let's do aromatherapy, okay, they're going to go, I don't know the first thing about that. What's it supposed to do? What's it for? That's not going to work. I want it to work. So it's up to each person. There are two basic foundations that I do recommend for everybody. Being properly hydrated is the first one. The second one is good sleep. Thank you, Kurt. So now, okay, when I said properly hydrated, okay, no chemicals in the water. That means no tap water, no well water, no bottled water. And it has to have minerals in it, okay? The minerals are taken out by reverse osmosis. And so people look at me and go, what's left? Well, we used to have springs in this country that were pristine. Well, they're a little questionable these days because of the PFAS, okay? And it's a very long name, and I don't even remember the whole thing, but it's PFAS. It has contaminated all our groundwater, okay? Our the water table has been contaminated through the country, all right? And it's a necessary thing. I wish it was less toxic, okay? But it's similar for anybody who has seen the movie Erin Brockovich, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Chromium 6, okay? Chromium hexavalent 6. That is extremely toxic and deadly. And believe it or not, Kurt and Sue, we have that in this area, okay? And so it's in the groundwater, and it comes through the pipes. Now, the municipal water systems haven't developed as quickly as the chemicals, and so they don't filter it out properly. So what do I recommend? I have a water filtration system. It's a countertop system. It's really affordable, especially compared to some of the other units on the market. It doesn't run on electricity because, of course, if the electricity goes out, okay, you don't have clean water, right? It's the proper pH for the body, and it's an easy to maintain system. And that's what I recommend. That's what I use. That's what you saw me drinking water from a minute ago. Okay. I just fill my glass up and I drink from that, and I refill it several times a day so that I make sure I'm properly hydrated with a healthy water. I tell everybody that is the foundation. Of course, unless I educate people, okay, like I just shared, which people don't usually have time for, by the way, they don't know the difference. So rather than just saying proper hydration, I have to go through educating first if they're willing to listen. And then the other one is sleep. Well, that's actually an easy one, believe it or not, because if we're not properly hydrated, our nervous system is on edge and we don't sleep well either.
Funny how things are all connected, you know?
Remember that old song, the knee bone's connected to the shin bone?
Yep.
It's true.
Well, yeah, I know Kurt's in the background there. I'm gonna go ahead and bring him in so he can be in this conversation as well. So yeah, there's a lot to it, right? On the one hand, there's so many levels, but on the other hand, it's very simple, and it takes paying attention and learning what there is to know. I mean, forever. I mean, we're talking about hydration. Kurt, you will never find him without water at his fingertips. That's been a thing for years. He always has that glass of water or water bottle or whatever it is, handy, so that there's that's there. So that's something I don't think enough people think about. And even with that, I know I tried really hard to make sure that's a thing for myself as well. And I know I'm certain when we had our last ski show, or a week ago at our ski show, that I was not feeling well in the middle of the show there. And I'm pretty sure I was dehydrated. It's like, how do I get to that point? I try very hard to focus and make sure I'm getting enough, but I didn't that day. So we all have those moments.
There are things that will dehydrate us too. And so that's something I'm mindful of when I'm working with clients. What are you doing during the middle of the day? So, for instance, we live in Wisconsin. I tell people we have winter 8 months out of the year here. Okay.
Yeah.
Heating systems. Okay. Heating systems take water out of the body. Even air conditioning systems take water out of the body. Talking takes water out of the body.
All the things. So education being the first step really with people then, and what's something small, what's a step that you can do today, and
Yeah.
something like water is definitely a thing that anybody can be like, oh yeah, I need to do more of that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
so
something simple.
and I know Kurt, you've been around when Karen's been having other events, I believe. And what is something that's been a takeaway that stood out for you?
Well, I guess I'll say it's always refreshing when, we're talking about the world of health, wellness, well-being, and helping someone else, in their journey to be healthier, to look at activities of daily living and chances to make a change that the thing that we hear Karen talking about is things that I've done to, connect her into things going on with you and me, Sue. Terms like the Happy Neighbor Project, this podcast. She was on earlier with the Shakedown. There's various things that Karen is doing that has not been much part of her acumen, prior to meeting us. So it just really resonates with me because, when I find practitioners are kind of, offering the thing they offer and they stay in their lane and they just keep doing the same things over and over again, and it's a unilateral exchange, you know, it becomes interesting to me in terms of how another person can keep that going and be effective at it. So the thing I celebrate with Karen is, Karen said earlier, you know, she doesn't consider it a practice. Karen has expertise, she's certified, and she knows what she's doing. And at the same time, she takes her know-how and her can-do and everything's on the ready, but yet she's very open to try different things and take twists and turns in her journey, to find a refinement in how she applies her message and her expert I keep wanting to say practices, her expert
Techniques,
experiences, her
experience, there's a good
expert
word.
intervention.
Yeah.
Because to me, at the foundation of existence is energy. When someone passes on, we have that notion that we can feel that person with us. And so what is that? When somebody passes on and they're not with us in a bodily sense, we still have their energy that we carry with us, right? So to me, that's the very foundation of existence. So when Karen's talking about, remove the impurities and, there's a well-known individual out there that has studied, the energy that is around water and to look at the patterns that when you look at it and kind of bring out what is happening with the existence of this water, if the people around the water, are happy, the patterns within the water, when we look at it microscopically, that water changes versus, if it's in the middle of a mass casualty incident, the energy of the water is suppressed, so in our foods, so that now we water our food, so like fruit and vegetables, folks who use the Kangen water systems, or we're talking about reverse osmosis and things like that. The food that we grow exudes the energy. If the soil is depleted and stressed, the crop that comes out of that water is stressed. And I was on a session earlier where people were talking about meats. So veganism, can include, it really does include, but everything's about how you incorporate it into your life. So there's that room to incorporate the idea is that the slaughtering of an animal to come on our dinner plate has a suppressed energy, and then we eat that. And so that tragic energy is something that we carry with us, and it goes through our whole digestive system. And so that's the offering of vegans, is to encourage this to be a world of 8 billion people that really thinks about that, even in terms of eating an egg and, all that kind of stuff, that we can really think of the energy around everything that we do. So when we look at exercise, what are we doing? We're getting all our bodily systems working, and our bodies are cranking out energy. E equals MC squared, right? And so the bigger we are, the more energy it's going to take to have the effect as compared to a smaller person, right? A person who weighs less. It's physics. It's just reality around the system, the enclosed system that is our body. And then, our derma, our skin, the energy. What is the energy we are offering to our skin? When we shake somebody's hand and we can feel that energy, all of this matters. I was wearing a t-shirt on Tuesday that it says "You matter," and then you add the speed of light, and then you energy, type of thing. Sue got me that t-shirt. So that's it. That's a way to live life and to think about rest. There's a lot to be said, like, what is your energy state when you go to sleep? What are you propelling into your subconscious when you go to sleep? Because that will affect you. That all has to run its full course. I saw an environmentalist, ecologist, an ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor, an allergist down in Chicago. Just remarkable work that gentleman did in his time. And he would talk to me about with my allergies and so forth. Well, first of all, he would check my blood work and give me a vitamin regimen to, give my body a propensity to rectify the ailments that I carried, that way, in terms of lack of this, lack of that. I take Floracal because I have propensity to autosclerosis, hardening of the inner ear, things like that. So, but he talked to me about how he recommended me a 4-day pattern. So if it's something that through my allergies or for any reason has any sort of a stressing in my system, challenging my immune system, a force to reckon with inside of me, well, wait 4 days until you think of doing that again, type of thing. Karen, do you subscribe to that kind of thinking? In terms of having some sort of weekly cycles where you kind of have your ups and downs with different practices and what you allow, and, to have a little bit of a rotation there and, mix it up a couple times a week, things like that.
In certain instances, yes. And that's, again, when I take things into consideration for people, what their needs are. But I want to address a couple of things that you said, Kurt. One of them being the energy. Okay, that is so true. Every energy that we come across, okay, it has an energy. Even a rock has energy, and that's why animals can hear things that we can't. It's at a different sound vibration. Vibration is energy. So I grew up when I was young in Chicago. We used to go to the Museum of Science and Industry all the time. And down in the basement, they had this display, and I always wanted to go there because it was I can't remember if it's convex or concave, but I'm going to say the earlier form of parabolic microphones, okay? One at one end of the room, one at the other end of the room. And all you did was talk into those, and you could hear it. The person on the other end could hear it clearly. And that's sound vibration. And I learned that at a very early age. And so it made a lot of sense to me when I started learning about vibrational energy. So fast that forward to the 1990s, I heard about this guy, he must have been a scientist, I didn't know at the time, who was experimenting with water crystals. When I started getting into learning more about water, I learned he had books. So if anybody wants to look up Masaru Emoto, E-M-O-T-O, he's written several books on water and what our thoughts and what our words will do to water. And he goes, in one of the books, he goes through the process that he went through. Basically, a molecule of distilled water has no crystalline shape. And then when you say a different thought or tape a different thought on a bottle of water and then freeze it, and then you take it out of the freezer and shave it off, you can look at the molecule and it's formed a molecule. It's formed a crystal shape. And the same holds true with a thought. So how many things are we thinking to ourselves on a daily basis? That's energy. And then he compared it to different musics. So I'll just clue you in on one thing. Heavy metal music looks like swamp water. Okay, when you compare the two. So yeah, it's not good. And so why does this make a difference to us? 70%, and that's an average, 70% of the body is water. So Kurt, that's the energy that you're talking about, okay? The other thing I want to address is I have a philosophy. I developed this with my master's degree years ago. And it's people will do things that are simple to do, easy to understand, cost effective, time efficient, organized, fast, and fun. If it doesn't meet those criteria, they aren't going to do it. And that's why I say I do things according to each person, because it has to follow those criteria. I want them to be successful. It's helped me, okay? It's helped my kids who are grown now. And I want other people to have that success. And you can do this with business too, by the way. So entrepreneurs, this is for you too, okay? I want people to be successful in what they do. And putting this all together is those pieces of the puzzles I was referring to.
Excellent. I love it. And I know we do have another guest joining us. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on into the conversation here as well. We've got Christopher Myers joining us, and so glad to see you. I'm going to go ahead and pop you on in here to join in. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Sue. Thank you, Kurt, for the invitation. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, we've been chatting with Dr. Karen here for a bit and learning all sorts of great practical pieces. And I know
Yeah,
Karen,
I'm kind of disappointed in the whole heavy metal kind of stuff. I was thinking that would be or hey, I'm a Led Zeppelin fan, so I like Led Zeppelin and a few other ones. I know they're not heavy metal, but anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I know. I hear. I actually, enlighten people, but discourage them at the same time from what they really enjoy.
May want to change your choice of the music, right? When you hear stuff like that, it's like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
I'm in the
Yes.
wrong place, doing the wrong thing. I need to do different kinds of music. Yeah, for sure.
It's just a thought.
Yeah, it's a good thought.
well, Chris, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to
Sure.
everybody?
My pleasure. Yeah, Chris Myers. I live and work in the Memphis, Tennessee area. I'm a marketing consultant, marketing professor here at the University of Memphis. Been there for many, many years teaching brand and global marketing. 13-time author of marketing books as well as fiction. I'm a huge James Bond fan. But the real reason that I wanted to be on here, and knowing that Kurt's here and many others, is that he and I are connected with an organization I'm sure he shared before called Helpopedia. And my interest in them is I'm very passionate about the special needs community. I don't know for your listeners how many people know, but to give you some stats, nationwide, there are over 60 million people has some form of special needs. That's about 1 in every 6 people. The rate of autism, I have an autistic son, Taylor, who's now 34. He functions at about a 2 to 3 year old level with no speech. So Taylor, when he was diagnosed many years ago, the rate of autism as identified was 1 in 2,500. Today it's 1 in 31. So we can debate till the cows come home. I'm not a medical professional, my wife is, but I've talked to a lot of researchers and whatnot. I can tell you, sorry if I don't want to just jump out in politics and political world, but vaccines do not cause autism. So that's been debunked. Let me just get that out of the way from a point of view. So trust me, we've done our homework and done research. But yeah, I'm very passionate about the community because the needs are so significant, both for housing and jobs and just recreation and wanting to enjoy their lives. So yeah, I'm always willing to share my thoughts and different things I've been involved in, and hopefully that will make a connection with people.
Excellent. So glad you are here. And actually, we do
My
have
pleasure.
another friend joining us as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in to join our conversation as
Yeah.
well. I see Curtis Lau is here. I'm going to go ahead and bring you on in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Sue.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Sue and Kurt.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, my name's Kurt. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. So yeah, go Spartans. Anyway, that's my Spartans logo. But I know you guys are in Wisconsin, which is fine. But anyway, I'm a Michigan State fan because I went there and grew up in Detroit, Michigan originally. But when I graduated, I came to sunny Southern California because I love the sports and the climate, and not so much the political climate, but the weather here. But anyway, other than that, I love life and I love helping people travel, whether it be to Saipan or whether it be to Shanghai or whether it be to Disneyland. I like to help them travel for far less than retail prices with a travel agent. So I joined this travel club, Club Viago, about a dozen years ago. I've been helping dozens and dozens and dozens of people have fun for less. And also movies and eating out. I think people like to get out of their house once in a while and have some fun. So if you know someone that wants to have some fun for far less than retail, that's what I do. I share with our travel club and experience. Back to you, Sue.
Excellent. Oh, such a great group here. So, and Karen, I just want to double check with you too. I know you said you were on limited time, so I don't want to overstep. If anytime you need to go, just speak up. It's all good. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Do you guys have any questions for each other right off the bat before I dive in? Because I know with the quick introductions.
Nope.
Well, actually, Karen, while we still have you, I know with what Chris was bringing up, I might have to go rescue the dog here in a moment. I'm taking advantage of the weather. It's so nice out here. I'm actually sitting half outside and hanging out with our wonderful dog, but if she sees a squirrel, she's gonna lose her mind. I think that might have just been what happened there. Just like people, we all have our favorite things. That's her thing. So if I disappear, that's where I'm going, is just helping her. With what you were talking about with autism and the special education component there, I'm just kind of curious, Karen, with what you do with the health and wellness, if that's something that you've encountered very much with what you all do and what you may recommend, because there's a whole variety that, and I'm totally opening a can of worms there, but I'm just curious what your first impressions are, first thoughts.
Yeah. Well, when I was a hygienist, I specialized in working with children. So I was a pediatric dental hygienist for a number of years. And I really enjoyed what I did. It was the hardest work that I have ever done. Okay. Because children are, they have no filter. They'll just do what they want and say what they want when they want. And I loved it because of that. They were very spontaneous. I worked with children with disabilities, and there's a whole different training in working with disabilities. And I loved it. And some of my most wonderful patients were children with disabilities. It was really rewarding to me to be able to do my skill and help support them and help support their parents in a healthier way. As a naturopath, I do work with people with disabilities. I had one. Okay. And so I use people with those disabilities. I encounter a lot of people who, a disease, any disease can be considered a disability, okay, in one way or another. There are physical disabilities, there are functional disabilities. So, nutritionally, it's a physical disability. Function-wise, that's a mobility issue. We were talking about autism, Chris. There are a number of things that contribute to autism. And yes, I have worked with one young man particularly who has autism. And he was 5 when I worked on him, or not worked on him, when I worked with him. And he is now in high school and he's thriving. And it was, as Kurt and I were talking before, it's an energy thing because the nervous system is affected. And so it's knowing the systems that are involved that actually, and what to do with that actually makes the difference. And so, yes, I have worked with people who have disabilities, including autism.
Excellent. And now, Chris, with what you do with Helpopedia, what is your favorite thing that you like to do in that realm? Because I know there's, with helping so many different people, where's your favorite niche in there?
Yeah, so a little bit of background on that. So I came into living here in Memphis, not just because of Taylor, but been a part of a lot of boards. And wherever you guys are, I know that Curtis is in Detroit, and Dr. Karen, I'm not sure where you are, but where you're located, but across the country, little agencies, I always say they're like the little engines that could, right? So they're all in there, but the problem is they're all, for the most part, in their own swim lanes. They have their missions, they have their boards, they try to do what they can, they raise money, et cetera. And a lot of it is incredible work. I'm very grateful to be a part of that. So I joined that kind of group, if you will, here in the Memphis area for many years to learn about what the state provided and, more importantly, what it didn't provide. So along the way, I created, with the help of a foundation, Naples, Florida, a real-time information platform called Reability, which basically provided real-time information for parents and caregivers and others so that they could help make that a good decision, hopefully on behalf of their child or adult with special need. My son, for example, he wouldn't know, he doesn't know how to drive a car, ride a bike, do a lot of things. So understanding the programs that are available to him, which here in Tennessee are very, very limited, my thought was, hey, if I could provide a technology that would provide an email or text alert to someone about a program that would benefit him to help with the quality of life, would that be a good thing? And I did. And today, Reability's got over 400 agencies around the country, that are on it, which is great. I'm very happy for it. But there was still some work to be done. And so I found Laura Lynn Mears and Phil Petrano from Helpopedia. And then certainly Kurt and all the wonderful work he's doing, and so many others. Just to answer your question, Sue, the last couple of months. So I've only been involved with this group for about 3 months. But there's a lot of energy, a lot of positivity of what we're trying to do. But, it's not only just special needs, but they also provide a lot of support, programs, ideas for the youth development. Phil, in particular, works a lot with school systems and trying to help parents and others that are struggling, just trying to find the right, formula to get little Johnny or little Sally ready for college or high school or, some counseling challenges. I mean, there's so much anxiety out there in the world today. You're just, as an organization, trying to find what I call the sweet spot of how you can provide support, right? So we found each other through a mutual friend a couple of months ago, and I love it. As I said, I'm very happy to be working with Kurt and Phil and Laura Lynn and others who have such a positive, perspective in life about what they really want to do and how they want to make a difference. So for me personally, it's just connecting with them. Monday we have a board meeting, which is great. So we'll see, where things are and what we need to do. And we've got big plans for the rest of the year of launching kind of a Reability 2.0, if you will, that'll provide this world-class directory for families about, doctors and lawyers and dentists who can work with special needs. Because you would think in today's world, as litigious as we are, that everybody gets a fair shot at getting representation. The short answer I can tell you from 30, 40 years of experience, that answer is no. They say they will do it, but in reality, they won't. So finding those right resources, and that's what I'm blessed to be a part of Helpopedia. And as I said, love working with Kurt and the whole team.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I've only had good experience with the whole Helpopedia crew and knowing what they all are working towards. I mean, our daughter is just finished her sophomore year in high school, going into junior year, so a lot of the things that they talk about is like, it's really hitting home here of, how do you get to where you want to go and do the things that you want to do, and make good decisions along the way. And how do you know what's available? How do you know what options you have? And to be able to,
No, 100%. So if I may, for them, I don't want to steal any of Phil or Laura Lynn's thunder on that, but it's hard. I mean, I'm a parent. I've got my children are all older. My youngest is pursuing her PhD. So we're well into, and past the educational world on that front. But there are a lot of new families, new parents, new everything. They have no idea, or there's just too much information. They have no idea what to sift through to find out what works best for my child. Because not everybody wants to go to a 4-year college. Some people may want to go to trade school. I wouldn't be that way because I stink at that. There's no way I'm going to build anything or be in a metal shop. That wouldn't be me. But there are a lot of young people today that are really enamored with that sort of lifestyle, and it's a good lifestyle, and it's a good way to make a living. And I say, hey, more power to them. But just providing the right direction instead of everybody following the herd one way. Maybe I could be that person who's a slightly different. I'll go in a different way, and that's okay. And if that will make you happy and you can raise a family doing it that way, I say more power to you. But that's the beauty about this little organization, Helpopedia. We're looking at two very dynamic, major challenges facing youth development and then working with special needs caregivers and their families. So it's a really great little group. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Excellent. And I gotta ask, Curtis, have you heard of Helpopedia, or is this the first that's come across what you are all doing?
I've never heard of them. As a social studies teacher in high school for many years, I've never heard of that. And let me start off by saying, Christopher, I do not live in Detroit anymore. Just to let you know. I'm in Southern California near San Diego.
That's right. You did say it. My apologies. That's right. You did say
no problem. I mean, nothing against my hometown of Detroit. Like any major city, it has its problems. I do have relatives back there, but basically, I'm out here in Southern Cal with my wife. But I'm able to help people in Detroit and Memphis. My sister lives in Cordova, just to let you know.
Oh, yeah. So okay, there you go.
Very familiar with the Memphis area. But Sue, no, I have not heard of his organization. I'd love to hear more about it. That's why I'm here. I haven't visited in quite a while. I know I've been absent, Kurt. Please forgive me. But I get here when I can, when I'm not traveling, when I'm not helping people. But long story short, I haven't heard of them. And yes, Sue, it is important to help people, including your daughter in high school, navigate the roads, or special ed people navigate the roads to what do I want to do with life? How do I get there? What's the end, the means, or the means to the end, or whatever. Maybe I'm confusing on that part because we all have our journey of what we want to do. There's no main path. I thought the main path was going to college and getting a 4-year degree, and that would enable you to get a job for 4 years, or excuse me, for a lifetime. And that hasn't been true at all in life. Just because you have a sheepskin and a college education does not guarantee that you're going to get a pension with the same company after 40 years, like our fathers and grandfathers did. So everyone has to choose their own path. And it's especially tough, I imagine, for autistic children. I've got a autistic young man over here that I actually taught in high school, two doors down. And unfortunately, he's still living at home at 25 because he is kind of stuck with, what do I do? But how do I make a living? How do I make 50, 60, 70 grand a year to support myself on my own without my parents? I think he's going to be at his home the rest of his life with his parents, Sue and Chad over here, because they can't give him the freedom to live in an apartment because he just can't function. So I feel for those kids. So normal people, how do we survive, without a job? And that's why I do what I do, Sue. I help people that want to be entrepreneurs or make an additional stream of money so they don't have to rely on an employer. They can work on their own and travel the world and make some money doing it. But that's another story altogether. But to answer your question, no, I haven't heard of his organization, but I'm here to learn more about it.
Excellent. Well, and I'm curious too with the travel that you do, with how you help people get set up for their vacations and whatnot. Is it very often that you have folks that say, "Hey, I've got somebody with special needs that's going to be in this travel as well"? And because I've heard a lot of stories from folks that a good friend that's a wheelchair user, that there's a whole lot of hoops to go through to try to figure out, can I get to the places that I want to go, and how does that look? And do you encounter that very much?
We do at times. We have, many, many disabled people, not functionally, not disabled mentally, but we have a lot of disabled people that encounter the ADA all the time. The American Disabilities Act, and how do you navigate getting to the airport? How do you call a shuttle? How do you get there? How do you get to the Great Wall of China and actually get on the Great Wall of China and have accessibility? Because when you travel to other countries, they do not have what we have in America. They have a lot of hoops they have to jump through. And how do I get to this outback of Australia? How do I get to Machu Picchu? And we navigate, our travel club and concierge handles all that. They take care of the hoops that you have to jump through. And that's part of what I love, is that I don't have to worry about anything. Everything's taken care of. So whether you're disabled or not, there is a way for you to go to fill in the blank, and not have to worry about jumping through those hoops.
Excellent. Yeah, because I even think about, as we age, we all will become less able as we go. I'm thinking of an older couple that specifically, I know they like to travel, but they are reaching that point of, they're starting to look a little frail and are worried about, what do I do if I fall? So they have things that they need to think about now that they didn't have to before. That's a local friend here that introduced the phrase to me, temporarily able-bodied, that I'm a tab. I can get around now, but that doesn't mean I'm always going to. And so that's something that we all have to take into consideration at some point. If it's not a thing today, maybe a year down the road, or maybe a few decades down the road, it all changes. Our landscape changes, our needs change, and to be able to be ready for whatever's coming, it's nice to have resources that we can count on, that we know that we'll be okay. We'll figure it out. And I know somebody. I know this guy. he can help me out. So it definitely, it's a different way to think about where we are going and what we're doing.
So I have a question for Chris.
Okay.
Please.
Chris, with working with Reability, does that include the senior population?
Yes, it does. For
Okay.
children all the way through adults, right? So
Okay.
it was designed that way because, again, my son is now 34. So I was thinking ahead relative to his care and whatnot. And by the way, Sue, Taylor, as a part of challenge for us. He doesn't live with my wife and me anymore because a couple of years ago, and it's hard. I will tell you as a parent to say I'm actually giving up the care of my child, my son that, my wife gave birth to 30 something years ago, to complete strangers. And there are all kinds of different emotions. So for your listeners and whatnot, maybe some of them are feeling that way. And Karen, I'll come back to your question, but it's just, it is a very different world when you have typical children that are crazy and run around and go to games in the parks and all of that other stuff. And then you have a special needs child. Your entire world just turns on its head, right? Turns on the head. So Karen, to your question, yeah. So when I conceived of this idea years ago, and we did research, by the way. So as a marketer, for all those who are interested in the world of marketing, that's what I do for a living. We did quantitative research to validate, hey, would people really be interested in this idea? If you had a platform that would provide real-time information free of charge that came to you when you need it, how you need it, about the information that you needed, that to help you make good decisions. And so that was the premise. And so I did research, and a lot of people said, great idea, go and build it. Okay, where do I fund the money? It always comes down to money, but you got to find money. Somebody's not going to do it necessarily for free. In pro bono work, right? So we found this beautiful, wonderful agency out of New Delhi, India, and for a very modest amount of money, they built the platform. I know for a fraction of what it would cost today, and so the platform does provide support. Karen, again, to your question, once that child gets diagnosed, all the way through their entire. In my head, it was a life continuum. So life is, continuum from the day you're given birth until the day the good Lord says it's time to go. So this platform shouldn't be anything different, and that's the way we conceived it. So it's
Great.
still there today, still going today. But as I said, the reason I'm so delighted to be with Kurt and the Helpopedia. And by the way, Curtis, the Helpopedia is actually based in the New Jersey, New York area. That's where Phil and Laura Lynn founded the organization. It's not even 3 years old yet, but it's already caught fire and a lot of interest from people. Because again, it's providing information for parents to help with planning for youth development and college and all these other things. And now, since I came on, we've got a little more focus on the special needs side. So again, two major objectives for us, but it's based in New York and New Jersey area. So it's very cool. But yeah, it's that's the thing about for parents, for all your folks on here and others in the special needs world. It's really about how can I provide a little bit of hope, hopefully, that will provide a future quality of life. And that's the name of the game. I can't change the fact that my son functions at about a 2 to 3 year old level. He'll never be able to do a lot of things my other children can do, or many others, but he still deserves to have a quality of life just like everybody else, right? And there's certain things that he loves to do. He loves to play with balls, other things. So, and Taylor's just like millions of others here in the U.S. and frankly across the world. So I think worldwide there are probably 400 or 500 million at least people that have special needs, at least that many, probably at least 500 million. A lot of people. Probably 8% of, or 7-8% of the entire world population has some form of special need, maybe more. So, a very daunting task.
It's amazing when we think. I know Kurt's made comments over the years about how if you expand your business to include everybody, the extent to which you actually are expanding your business, it's amazing. And so I'm seeing some pop-ups here about Karen, that you need to get going. All good. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today and sharing your words. Really appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
To meet you. Thank you for your questions. Beautiful question. Thank you. Yeah, Kurt has been a champion, and just in the few months I've known him, I really appreciate his passion, energy for this, because he's right. Every time I get a chance to chat with him, he's absolutely right. It's just so much misinformation, though, and so many people that just don't know and are scared and whatever. But instead of trying to be enlightened about what they could know, what's the natural reaction? Unfortunately, with some people, they recoil or they back away or they don't want to learn or whatever. And so what you don't know scares you. And what you can't understand, you just don't believe in. And that's really unfortunate, but regrettably, there are a lot of people still like that out in the society. So I'm on a quest, maybe Kurt is too, with the folks at Helpopedia and others, one person at a time. If we can help convert, if you will, one person's understanding of that world just a little bit, maybe we can make it a better place. I don't know. We'll see.
I love it. Yeah, there's that fear of the unknown. It's like if you don't know what to expect, it's like, oh, I need to understand right away. Well, no, you can figure it out. It's all good. I know when we do adaptive water skiing, every person that comes is there for a different reason. Some have a physical something that means that the sit down ski is better than stand up skiing. Some people, it's a cognitive thing. It's everybody is different, and we adapt what we're doing to the person to make it work for them. And it means something different for everybody. It's like it can be similar between different people, but it's going to be different for everyone. Some people don't like that. Oh my gosh, I'm getting in the water now and getting wet, and it could be a scary moment of you're sliding from being on the dock into the water, or maybe actually this last time when we were out there, we had somebody that was actually really petite. So she actually ended up riding on my lap around on that sit ski
No,
because
there you go.
itself it would have been too big for her. It was not practical. But having her and she would not have been able to have the focus to stay still in that seat without wanting to move around, and it so we made it work. I'm like, that was actually the parent that said if she could sit on somebody's lap, that might work. So I got to be the lucky one to actually go for the ride and have her sit on
There
my
you
lap,
go.
and I could
How
keep her in
cool is
place.
that?
And it was so much fun. And that's what it's all about, is you figure it out. You talk to people. You're not supposed to know. That's what part of the conversation's about. We don't want to assume that, actually a wheelchair using friend educated me on the part of, I'm in a wheelchair and I roll myself. It's all good. And when people come up behind him and just, take over and start wheeling him for him without asking, he said that freaks him out. He hates that because
Yeah.
people don't realize, like, that's my, you're walking around. This is how I walk around. I use my wheels. If you want to
Right.
help me, ask. And I might say no. I might say yes, but I probably won't. He made it very clear that people make assumptions that they think they're being helpful, and it might not be. So it's just ask. It's okay to ask. Talk to them. And
Sure. No, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I've always said it's celebrate with folks who have special needs what they can do and celebrate with them as opposed to scoffing at what they can't do. All of us can't do everything they want to do. There are a lot of things I want to do, but I can't do physically, cognitively, whatever. But, you should just celebrate that. But unfortunately, again, there's still a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstandings and that's just, one by one, my children have had to deal with this head on, as little caregivers when they're younger, trying to take care of their older brother and trying to stand up for him and whatnot. It's hard though. I will tell you, it's hard. A lot of peer pressure, a lot of everything. And as they get into adults, it's even more magnified. So again, I'm just trying to be in a positive place. No longer, going to be, hey, I can't convert the world, but if I can, help one person at a time, better understand like what you're doing. I mean, for the people who would be there, they're typical, like all of us, whatnot. If they saw that and like, wow, what a really cool thing you guys are doing. And then they celebrate by telling, 10 other people, and 10 other people told 100 and all that. What a cool thing that is. I mean, what a great, great thing that is. I think that's wonderful.
I think that's part of why we do this, even just to share ideas that might not hit at people's minds otherwise. Like, why would I think about this? Well, take somebody speaking up and saying something, and realizing, with the idea of travel. I've got a friend who's a wheelchair user that lives in New York, and she swears that she's like, if I'm going anywhere, it's going to be that we're traveling by vehicle to get there, because she's had so many bad experiences trying to be on an airplane with people destroying her chair, not taking care of it to the extent that they need, because that's how she gets around. And they don't have the I was going to say respect, but yeah, the respect, the education, the understanding of why it's so important to take extra good care of that chair and not lose pieces of it while she's on the plane, sitting in the seat that they declared that she had to sit in. She won't fly anymore because she's had bad experiences. And why do we do that? I think it really is.
Well,
they don't
yeah,
think
no,
about it, they don't get it.
100%. And I think over time, maybe not, I don't know about in my lifetime, but at some point, speaking of the airline, they will have to adapt because the sheer numbers of people that will have wheelchairs or need assistance. Think about, all of us who fly. I mean, has the experience gotten really any better? I was talking to my daughter about this last night, as a matter of fact. I think it's gotten worse, and then the airlines are nickel and diming you for everything. Think about those little lanes you have to go through, and the cart comes down the aisle and it bumps into you, even though, hey, I haven't changed physically, but all of a sudden now, it's just kind of crazy. And so think about if you have a wheelchair. So it's just, I don't know. I just think the adaptation that has to happen in our society, both mentally, financially, psychologically, socially, whatever, just needs to continue to happen. And Kurt, I think you mentioned this a few times in some of the Helppedia calls. It's people need to be able to adapt. They have to be able to change. And you would hope that they would, but it's not always the case, which makes me sad, but I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to keep going, as best I can.
And that's what it takes. It takes keep moving forward and not letting things get too too out of hand, too down on, I know you, was it Chris? I think it was you that said earlier, a phrase that a friend of ours uses a lot is look at my ability, not my disability. And
Right.
that's where, if we could always focus on all the things we can do, because I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to do that I can't.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not built for lots of things. That doesn't
Sure.
mean it's good, bad, whatever. That's just the way it is. And
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Focus on what you can do and stop, diminishing what they can't do. So, and life would be a little bit better. But, that's a transformation in our society that will take a very long time. So, but
one person at a
groups
time.
like yours and others out there that can help, that's a good thing. Always.
Excellent. Well, and Kurt, you've been quiet in the background for a while there. You want to come on in and share a few words?
Sure. Yeah, we're here at the World of Ability because of my recognizing the need to get the narrative and the message out that was brought to Sue and me in an amplified way a dozen years ago and across the last decade, and has empowered us to take the discipline of water skiing, the sport of water skiing, and more than sextuple the access to the sport of water skiing for people with disabilities coming through the state of Wisconsin, with Rockford, Illinois hopping on board. So, through the demonstration of the Wisconsin Water Ski Federation, I got a cue and a clue that there is so much more possible, to the degree I call it a quantum leap. And I recognize the leaders in this, who are people with disabilities. I declare people with disabilities as the masters of ability, because Sue and I are doing this because of the influence, impact, and the inspiration that people with disabilities has been for us in the last decade of our life. And Sue and I are sitting here able to admit that in the first 40 years of our lives, people with disabilities didn't have this amplified part of our life that it has today. So it's been a process, it's been a transformation, and it's something that Sue and I are doing a check-in with 6 billion, that's billion with a B, 6 billion people around the world. And it comes from, if you Google how many people on the planet have a disability, you'll see some references there showing 1 billion people on the planet recognizing these references as having a disability. So being a disability ally, having education at the University of Wisconsin, Madison in electrical and computer engineering, I look at this to say, what is really happening with this information, and where is Google at? Where is the digital space? And we have an immediate opportunity to expand and grow that, because I propose to all of you out there that the findings on Google using ChatGPT and all the tools only has half the story. When you look at people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the deaf community, blind community, people with physical disabilities, people in the community living with chronic pain that are there to the degree of having a disability, people who have a mental health diagnosis that, also are in that community that, are to the degree of their mental health diagnosis also is a disability. And, for people who have a goal of substance use reduction, being vice chair of the Wisconsin Council on Physical Disabilities, I started to realize all the tie-ins to this and leaders, of this that I benefited in the last decade from their work. But for governors' committees, the idea of intellectual and developmental disability, deaf, blind, people with physical disabilities, mental health, those 5 demographics are how governors committees for people with disabilities are established. Check it out. Get involved. That's part of the issue is that, it's this concept when I point the finger out at Chris and Curtis and Sue, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. Or if I point out at you, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. If it is to be, it's up to me. And that's what Sue and I had to learn. We had to learn as we entered our 40s that, we can play a role that we never recognize, which tells us our culture, custom, genetic memory, our programming, all is predisposed at a segregative level. That there's those people out there, which we can point to as the community of people with disabilities. And then there's the other 75%, the other 3 out of 4. And this is the common flaw, the flaw that 6 billion people live under. And 2 billion people on the planet have always been there since the beginning of humankind. 175 billion people have ever been on this planet. And it is just astonishing and astounding to me that even if you read sacred scripture, we have never had this conversation. In sacred scripture, what you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. Why did our Messiah say that? Because of his audience. It wasn't because of him or our Heavenly Father or any of the divinity. It has to do with his audience, the audience during the time of sacred scripture and for the audience today, 8 billion people on the planet. Because we were talking about energy earlier in the show. If we really understand this, 8 billion people on this planet have equal energy. 8 billion people have equal energy. We come from one. We have to understand, we come from one and we're spread across the world through the miracle of mitosis. Through the miracle of mitosis, we are 8 billion people around the world. Hallelujah! But we're all one. We are still one. Even though we're 8 billion individuals, we're all part of one body. Humankind. We are one organism all around the world. So when we look at how we treat people, it can be akin to how we treat in our inner self, our bodily parts. If we're harsh on one part of our body, we suffer, right? Same thing when you do that to another person. The whole world suffers when we are unkind and unjust to another. That's what the world of ability is all about. Our opportunity to rectify and to recollect our present time. Carpe diem, seize the day. What are we able to do today? We're able to mitigate the circumstance and come together in unity, through community, through the collective impact. Again, Sue and I experienced a quantum leap of progress in 6 years. And we know in our faith communities, our service sector, our educational institutions, our government, our workforce, and all of the fun things we can do in life, let's ask ourselves, with all of those things, how are we doing, including people with disabilities, and how does this look, and how is it under the terms of people with disabilities. People with disabilities taught me the term, and it's out there in all the agency work and everything, self-determination. So what does that mean? We need to give, figuratively, every person with a disability the pen, the pencil, the communication format that they can, from within their energy, exude it to us, and we can receive it in and benefit from it and be empowered and adapt and adjust and assist and accommodate and just be a better functional human being, because people with disabilities are giving us the insights that we were too blind, deaf. We weren't saying the right things. We got to check the tongue. We got to look at how we're looking at things, everything. We got to look at how we feel things, how things taste, the whole thing, the whole sensory experience. Bring it together and look at equality and how this is flourishing around the world, around the globe. Curtis Lau is on here. He knows, as well as I do, the proof of concept. Curtis Lau was with me in meetings where we understood the energy and the culmination and the propulsion and the quantum leap that's available when people get together to do a righteous thing. Edwin led us through it, and 90% of our friends and family missed it. They ask all the time, what happened? Where did it go? It didn't go anywhere. The people went somewhere else, which we can celebrate, because now we're like disciples. We're like apostles. We're like ministers, and we can go out there, but we have to ask ourselves, are we holding on to that energy that Curtis and I experience on Zoom meetings with the Happy Neighborhood Project? The happiest place in the world for business people, where Denise Vargas led the way with H&P Ability. And that's key, folks, because the element that is the worst at inclusion, accommodation, inclusive hiring, and the like is the business community, the global business community. And the idea is we're a community of business people that accept that a majority of businesses will fail. So what is the recipe of success? Include the masters of ability, include people with disabilities, and all of the business sector's problems will go away. I guarantee it. My name's Kurt Roskoff, and I approve this message. Back to you, Sue.
Wow. Spectacular. I don't know, did you guys have anything you wanted to comment on that? I know we've got Marianne's joining us as well, but want to give you guys a chance to just react to what he was all saying first.
Well, I wanted to jump in and say, Kurt, you're right on about helping people. And I appreciate that message that you gave. There's 3 types of people in the world. And I always taught this to my classroom. There's people that make things happen. There's people that watch things happen. And there's people that wonder, what happened? So what type of person are you going to be? And I ask that to my class all the time. And I ask that to people at church and out in the world. People watch the world go by and they don't do anything. They sit at home and they crochet and watch TV. And I'm going like, you're missing out on life, helping people, whether it be traveling or, it doesn't matter, but you only have one life, and then you die. I have so many people that have died. I've shared this concept with, yeah, someday. And I'm going, someday might be no day because you're dead. And people have died. And I'm going, what happened? So anyway, I wanted to interject, Kurt, and share with you, Chris, also. Have you ever seen this thing called a starfish?
Is that question for me?
Yeah, for everyone. Have you heard this? Have you heard the starfish story?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what story you're referring to. I've heard different stories about starfish.
Okay, the starfish story basically is, I'm going to church camp next week to help foster and neglected youth. have some sense of normalcy at a church camp. And I've been doing that for a dozen years now. But, I got this starfish being at my first camp at Royal Family Kids Camp. Here's the starfish story. I'm going to do it real quick. I have to leave at the top of the hour. While walking on the beach one day, I saw a starfish on the shore, and everywhere I looked, it seemed I saw 1,000 more. Then what to my surprise appeared? A boy of 9 or 10. And as the starfish washed ashore, he threw them back again. Open the page. I smiled at such a futile task to save this population. One fish won't make a difference, son. You can't change the situation. He stooped and picked up another fish, one more fish. Then looking right at me, quote, I can make a difference for this one, sir, unquote, and returned it to the sea. So I went and gathered all my friends, my brothers and my cousins. We joined in with this little boy and saved starfish by the dozens. There are many to be rescued, many starfish in life's shore. Let's make a difference like that lad by saving just one more. And it still touches me to this day that what you do in life, you affect. And if you save just one like you, Chris, and help one each day, it makes a difference in life. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Yeah, very cool story. Hey, Kurt and Sue, I've got to jump. I've got family members still here from lunch. I need to run. But thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. I really appreciate it. I included my contact information in the chat. Curtis, very, very much a pleasure meeting you. Hope all goes well there in Southern California. Be safe out there. And your next guest, I've heard her wonderful story. So I'm going to leave you, Curtis, to hear it too. It's a fascinating story. Great video. But thank you again. I'll be happy to come on another time if you want me to. Happy to.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kurt.
And I know, actually, I think Marianne just popped off for a moment there. She was asking about us playing her book trailer. So I would be, let me just pull that up real quick here. The Underwater Acts of Kindness Ocean Cleanup. Oh, yeah, she's coming right back in here. So give me just 1 second here. I'm going to bring that in.
Aloha.
Hey, Marianne, how you doing?
Good. I'm really excited because I'm watching Kurt Roscoff on my television and things are delayed. And that message was so powerful. So Curtis, I have 3 out of 4 book trailers now of the Acts of Kindness series. So I'm looking at myself here. Wow, I'm looking on the television. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? Oh my gosh, there's Chelsea, there's Leon, Clean Water Foundation. Wow, World Water Day. It's got to be World Water Year, but Underwater Acts of Kindness. Can you play it for Curtis here with the starfish?
You got it. Here it is.
All
The
right,
Love of
Curtis.
Water, World Water
Oh.
Day, March the 22nd. Join us as we celebrate World Water Day with the 4th book in the Acts of Kindness series by Marianne of Waikiki. Meet Robo Motivation, a brave robot delivering clean water to schools worldwide. Alongside Waterflow the whale, our deaf ocean hero, they show that every act of kindness can change the world, one drop at a time. Plus, meet Pollination, the inspiring bee championing sustainability, and Mr. Penmanship, the Emperor Penguin, urging you to stand up for climate change by writing to Greenpeace. Powered by Lucy Lynch's Love is the Only Way. This movement reminds us that love, kindness, and action create waves of change. This book is dedicated to Leon McLaughlin, founder of Clean Water Foundation, Seattle, Washington, USA. All U.S. classroom teachers can request copies of the books for every student via donorschoose.org. Get your copy today on Amazon and visit actoffkindnessseries.com. Unite for the love of water.
Wow.
For the love.
There we go.
So, okay, so I don't know if you could be kind to play Underwater Acts of Kindness for Curtis, because he's talking about the starfish. So that was the fourth book, Curtis, for climate change. Could you be kind? I'm watching it on my television, you guys. This is so super cool.
What if you could help save the
Oh,
ocean?
Hey, God, it's playing before I said to start. Let me share my screen. I'll pull that right up for you. And then I know, Kurt, I want to actually make sure we talk about Mutual Aid Network as well, because that is an event happening this weekend. But let me go ahead and share this first, and then we can talk about that in just a moment.
I have to hop off at the top of the hour.
Yep. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and get this in quick.
Help save the ocean just by listening to a story. Set sail with Underwater Acts of Kindness. Join Noah, the hard of hearing humpback whale, and his marine friends as they take on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. On their journey between Hawaii and California, they discover an enormous pile of plastic, but with teamwork and courage, they plan to clean it up. With the guidance of Dod General of the New Earth Army, they rally ocean creatures and you to help restore our seas. Now available on Amazon Audible, listen as author Marianne of Waikiki narrates this inspiring adventure, featuring mesmerizing music by Lucy and the Perfect Wave and Nick's guitar, echoing the sounds of whales and dolphins. This book is dedicated to Boy and Slat, founder of The Ocean Cleanup, making waves for a cleaner future. Sing along with Noah's song and dive into a world of peace, love, happiness, and thanks. After reading, visit the Acts of Kindness series YouTube channel for more adventures. Learn the ASL ABCS with Dr. Fingers, the fingerspelling hermit crab on YouTube, kids. Get coloring books now at www.actsofkindnessseries.com and Amazon. Plus, grab your New Earth Army t-shirt and pledge to protect our planet. Underwater Acts of Kindness by Marianne of Waikiki. Available now on Amazon, Audible, and actsofkindnessseries.com.
Excellent. All right. Let's see, making sure I'm back to where I need to be here on my screen. So, yeah, so that Marianne, thank you so much for having us go ahead and share those out. And Curtis, I know you said you've got to get going here too. So I would just want to give you a big, huge thanks for being here. It's so good to see you and get to hear you again. It's been a bit. So welcome. You're welcome back here anytime. We're glad to have you.
I'll try and get here anytime. What can I do other than donate money to help clean up the ocean? That's what I was wondering, because there is that huge garbage patch the size of Texas out there, and people here in California, they talk about being earth friendly, but here they're throwing plastics in their landfills instead of recycling it. And all the plastics that we recycle, they've lied to us. They're not being shipped and melted down and turned into new plastics. They're just dumping it in landfills too. That's been a big duping here in California as well as around the country. So what can I do to help save our planet off plastic? Is there something I can do?
Well, just getting the word of mouth out and educating. What I did, Curtis, is a special education teacher, Marilyn Rogers, told me about Donors Choose, and she requested 50 books. And she was funded in 2 weeks, and Amazon shipped out the books to the classroom, and the classroom read it. So going out as a presenter and author and Apple game developer, we passed around the puppets and we talked stories. So people look on the ground and find 10 pieces of plastic and pick it up at the bus stop, McDonald's, the parks. Everybody does 10 things to do our part. That's free. Okay, that's free. And then share it with 10 other friends and do an ocean cleanup gathering. And so these are just things that are free to do in the community and post it. And I won the Awesome Grant Foundation Award, Honolulu chapter, Oahu, in July. And we gifted the Hawaii School for the Deaf and Blind a water unit value $150 from Clean Water Foundation, and the second book, Rabbit Acts of Kindness, No Bully. And I also then used that money to hire Jay Stoyan for the Persons with Disabilities channel with 32 million subscribers. So I got to share that story as well. So we can look together on Awesome Foundation California. There's outside LA area, and we can apply to see if we can get these books for you in your organization. And in regards to the ocean cleanup, you can go on the ocean cleanup website and donate there and follow them along. And yeah, so thank you for, wanted to do your part. So you can do it for free. And, I just here, wherever you are, I picked up a bunch of bottles. I'm in Mexico. They really are not up to recycling. But, the effort walking down, there was a guy collecting them. And I hang on to that garbage bag full of plastic bottles and picking up around the streets in there and knowing that, someone's going to come by and pick them up. So again, that was exercise. It was free. And I have a good feeling, so, and everybody wins with it. So again, you can visit theoceancleanup.com and Boynton Slack.
Okay. Thank you
Awesome
very-
Foundation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you
Bye,
so much,
everyone.
Curtis.
See you next
Have a
week.
great day. So glad to
Thank
have you
you.
here with us.
Thank you.
So, and I know we do want to share yet about the Mutual Aid Network. Kurt, can you just give a little snippet of what is happening this weekend? Let me see if I can pull up a website to share as well.
Yeah, Sue's going to be going to mutualaidnetwork.org, going into the events tab, and the event showing there is our Solidarity Summit. The work we're doing is spreading like wildflowers. And so right now it is Flag Day. Happy Flag Day. It is June 14th, 2025. And so after we close out the Zoom session here for the World of Ability, we're going to be jumping on over for what goes until 1:30 Pacific, 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern. And so click on the, you're on it. Yeah, the agenda is there. So yeah, it's the final session. They're in wrap-up mode. They got the WAQF funding model and Islamic entrepreneurship, what we can apply today. Thamina Anwar presenting. So they're going to be wrapping up here within the half hour, and then it picks up again tomorrow, Sunday, June 15th. And it'll go from noon to looks like past 4:30, so 4.5 hours of innovative funding models for seriously affordable housing. So obviously we at the Mutual Aid Network are very serious. Oh, did I say 4 hours? It's only an hour and a half, 90 minutes.
Hour and a half,
12 to 1:30, a 90-minute session of innovative funding models for seriously affordable housing. So obviously we're proclaiming that as a priority at the present time to really take a deep dive in how in mutual aid fashion we can up the game and making sure we're responding to home insecurity out there all around the world.
And that Zoom link is right on that same screen. So if you go to that mutualaidnetwork.org, go to events, and then when I went to the agenda, you can see the Zoom link is right on my screen here. So I can just copy it, go to a new tab, pop it in there, and that's it. And like I said, right now this one is live, and you're welcome to head on over there and catch the last half hour or so of that session. But they do this quarterly. So at do you know the date of the next one yet? I know it, like I said, it is quarterly. If I'm just trying to see in here if it shows when the next one is yet, but I'm not sure if it
The
does.
next one will be around September 20th or whatever, the weekend of the autumnal equinox. So like September 20th, 21st.
Popping ahead here to September.
It looks like they don't have it on there yet, but it'll be September 20th, 21st, always
Got it.
correlating to the autumnal equinox.
Perfect. All right. And with that, what a day. What an amazing group of people. I'm so thankful to have Dr. Karen joining us, Chris, Curtis, And Marianne, as always, we're so grateful to everybody for coming on in and sharing and growing the community. So thank you so much. Make sure to make note of that mutualaidnetwork.org so you can get into the end of today's session and join tomorrow. And again, in September on the 20th and 21st, when that will be back for its quarterly event. With that, any last words, Kurt? I think we are all set for today. Go ahead.
Huzzah! Thank you. And charge on, because you are a key person in this world of ability. Thanks for being you.
Excellent. And I would be remiss if I did not mention again about vetsinneed.org. Make sure to always go there. The live stream that we did last week, that 8-hour telethon, is replaying on their live link, and the telethon is still active. So by all means, share that out. vetsinneed.org. Still raising money, still have lots of info on there to be sharing. So go check it out. As always, we are so grateful for everyone who participates. Marianne, so good to see you. So good to have you part of our crew here today. We look forward to being back here next week again for our next episode of World of Ability, Saturdays at 1 o'clock Central. And like I said,